The sky was broken. Ash and smoke floated like grey snow. The ground was black and burned, full of metal, blood, and broken dreams. Once, this place was a city, full of lights, laughter, and tall alien towers. Now, it was only silence, a silence so heavy it felt alive. In the middle of this dead world, a small figure moved. An alien child, no more than 10 years old, walked barefoot on the cracked road. His skin was pale green, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Dust covered his small face. His clothes were torn and his hands shook as he held a small piece of metal, a toy spaceship, the only thing left from his home. Every step he took made a small crunch sound. Every sound scared him. He looked around, empty streets, broken machines, silent homes. The war had ended yesterday, but peace had not come. Only fear stayed. He whispered to himself in his language, "Mama, Papa." No one answered, only the wind. He wanted to cry, but no tears came anymore. Far away, he heard something, a metallic sound, heavy and slow. Clang, clang, clang. The boy froze, his eyes widened. He knew that sound. Humans. The story said humans were monsters, tall, cold, and dangerous, soldiers who came from the sky and took everything. The boy quickly hid behind a broken wall, holding his toy close to his chest. His small heart beat fast, like a drum. He peeked through a crack in the wall. Through the smoke he saw a figure walking. A human soldier wearing dark armor and a heavy backpack. A rifle was in his hands, and a shining visor covered his face. Each step echoed in the silence. The boy wanted to run, but his legs felt frozen. He took a small breath and tried not to move. The soldier stopped. He turned his head slowly. The boy stopped breathing. The soldier looked directly toward the wall. The silence stretched. Then the soldier started walking, straight toward the boy's hiding spot. The boy backed away, heart pounding. He wanted to scream, but his voice was gone. The soldier's shadow grew larger and larger on the wall. The boy's small fingers pressed hard on his toy ship. And then the soldier stepped into the open space. His gun raised, his finger near the trigger. The boy stared at the strange creature, tall, covered in armor, face hidden behind glass. The human stared back, seeing only a frightened alien child with glowing eyes. For a few seconds, the world stopped breathing. The boy closed his eyes, waiting for the sound of a gun, but it never came. Instead, he heard something else, the soft sound of metal lowering. The soldier had put down his weapon. He removed his helmet slowly. Underneath was a human face, tired, dusty, with small cuts and sad eyes. He looked human, just a man. His voice was rough but calm. "Easy, kid," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you." The boy didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. It wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was gentle. The soldier knelt down, trying to look smaller, less scary. He pointed at the boy, then at himself. "Friend," he said softly, touching his chest. "Friend." The boy stayed quiet, still trembling. His eyes looked at the soldier's gun, then at his face. No lies there, only exhaustion and kindness. The soldier took off his glove and slowly opened his hand. He reached into a small bag and pulled out a silver packet. He tore it open and placed something on the ground, a small piece of bread. The smell was strange but good. The boy looked at it, confused. The soldier pushed it gently toward him, smiling a little. "Eat," he said. "It's okay." The boy tilted his head, watching the soldier closely. He took one small step forward. Then another. Finally, he picked up the bread. It was warm, soft, real. He took a bite. His eyes widened. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. The soldier chuckled quietly, the sound dry but kind. For a moment, they just sat there, human and alien. 2 enemies in a dead city, sharing silence and crumbs of food. The soldier looked around the ruins. "Hell of a place," he whispered. He took out something from his pocket, a small picture. A woman and a little girl, smiling under the blue sky. The boy leaned closer, curious. He pointed at the girl in the picture. The soldier smiled sadly. My daughter, he said. Back home. He touched his chest again. Family. The boy looked at the picture, then pointed at himself and whispered, Mama. Papa. The soldier's face softened. He nodded slowly. Two beings from different worlds understood the same pain. Loss. Suddenly the ground shook. A loud explosion thundered across the ruins. The soldier instantly turned his head. Damn it, he muttered, grabbing his rifle. He looked at the boy. Stay down! He pulled the child close and ran behind a pile of debris as another blast echoed nearby. Dust filled the air. The boy coughed, covering his face. The soldier wrapped an arm around him, protecting him from falling stones. When the sound finally stopped, they both stayed still, breathing hard. The boy looked up. The human was still holding him. He had protected him. In that broken silence, something changed. The boy's fear began to fade, just a little. The human soldier looked down at him and said softly, You're safe now, kid. The boy didn't understand the words, but he felt the meaning. For the first time since the war began, he wasn't alone. On a battlefield where mercy had died, a human soldier showed it once again, and a small alien child for the first time began to learn what courage feels like. The air still smelled like smoke and fear. Dust floated slowly through the sunlight that cut across the broken walls. The sound of far-off explosions had stopped. For now, the battlefield was quiet again. The human soldier sat near a half-destroyed wall, catching his breath. His armor was scratched, his helmet dented. He wiped the dirt from his face and looked at the small alien boy sitting across from him. The boy sat with his knees pulled close to his chest, watching the human carefully. His big glowing eyes followed every move. He didn't speak. He didn't run. But he didn't smile either. The soldier broke a small ration bar in half and placed one piece on the ground. Then he pushed it gently toward the boy. Here, he said softly. You need food. The boy didn't understand the words, but he understood the action. He looked at the bar, then at the human. He waited a few seconds, then reached out slowly and took it. He sniffed it. Strange smell. Strange texture. But hunger was stronger than fear. He took a bite. His face showed surprise. It tasted sweet. The soldier smiled a little. Not bad, huh? The boy didn't answer, just kept eating quietly. For a moment they sat in silence. Only the sound of wind and falling ash filled the space. Then the human opened a small device from his belt, a broken translator. He pressed a few buttons, but it made a static noise. Damn thing, he muttered, shaking it. Can't get it to work. The boy tilted his head. He recognized the object, a communication tool. He crawled a little closer, curious. The soldier noticed and smiled. You know what this is, huh? He showed it to the kid, then pointed to his mouth and ear. Talk. Listen. The boy slowly nodded. He touched the device gently, then pointed to his own small broken earpiece. It was cracked and dead. The soldier sighed. Yeah, seems like you had a rough time too. He tried to fix the translator again, using a small tool from his bag. The boy watched his hands move, fascinated by how carefully the human worked. After a few minutes, the soldier stopped and looked frustrated. Still nothing. Guess we'll just have to use hand signs. He smiled again, raising his open hand in greeting. Hi, he said, tapping his chest. Ryan. The boy blinked, then hesitated. He touched his own chest and whispered his name softly in his language. Tar. Ryan pointed to him and repeated, Tar. The boy looked surprised. The human said it almost right. For the first time, the boy smiled. A small, shy smile. Ryan grinned. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. He took out a small picture again from his pocket. The same one the boy saw earlier. He showed it to Tar. My family, he said slowly. He pointed to the little girl. My daughter. Her name's Lily. The boy leaned closer, studying the faces. The people in the picture were happy, smiling under a bright blue sky. The alien had never seen skies like that. His home was red and golden, not blue. Tar pointed at the girl and then at Ryan, asking silently, Your child? Ryan nodded. Yes, my child. Then he pointed at Tar. You? Family? The boy looked down. His smile disappeared. He hugged his knees and whispered, Mama, Papa. Ryan's heart sank. He understood, even without translation. He looked away for a moment, fighting the ache in his chest. Yeah, he whispered. War takes everything, doesn't it? They sat in silence again. Two survivors from two sides, both carrying the same loss. Suddenly, and a sound in the distance, a metallic drone cry, short and sharp. Ryan's body tensed instantly. He turned his head, scanning the horizon. Shh, he whispered, motioning for Tar to stay low. The boy froze. The sound grew louder, mechanical wings cutting through the air. Ryan grabbed his rifle and slowly peeked over the wall. A scout drone was flying nearby, scanning for life signs. Human or alien, it didn't matter. It shot anything that moved. Ryan whispered, Stay still. He put one finger to his lips, then raised his hand, showing Tar how to stay low. The boy nodded nervously, clutching his toy spaceship. The drone passed close, its red light scanning the ruins. Ryan pressed against the wall, breathing slowly. Tar shut his eyes, praying silently. The red light moved across their hiding spot and stopped. Ryan didn't move. The boy didn't even breathe. Seconds felt like minutes. Then a sharp beep, and the light moved away. The drone turned and flew off toward the hills. Only when the sound disappeared did Ryan finally exhale. He turned to the boy. That was close. Tar opened his eyes and looked at him. He didn't understand the words, but he saw the relief on Ryan's face, and felt it too. Ryan chuckled softly, shaking his head. You're one brave kid. Tar tilted his head, confused by the new word. Ryan pointed to his chest and said slowly, Brave. Then he pointed to the boy. You brave, the boy repeated it softly. Brave, Ryan nodded. Yeah, that's right. Tar smiled again, wider this time. The soldier stood up and checked the horizon. The sun was falling behind the burned towers. He looked down at the boy. We need to move before nightfall, he said quietly. He pointed toward the distance where smoke rose above the hills. Safe zone. The boy didn't understand the words, but he understood the gesture. They had to go. He stood up and held his toy in one hand, then looked at the soldier. For the first time, his eyes showed trust. Ryan nodded. Let's go, kid. They began to walk through the ruins. One tall human soldier, one small alien child. Two strangers, two enemies, now walking side by side, as the red sky darkened behind them. The wind carried away the ashes of war. In that moment, something quiet but powerful was born, a fragile friendship built from fear, kindness, and survival. In a world where mercy was forgotten, a human soldier chose to show it again. And the alien boy, once afraid, began to learn what courage truly means. The red sun was falling behind the ruins when Ryan and Tar started their journey. The world around them looked dead, smoke in the air, metal bones of ships half buried in the dust, and shadows stretching long across the cracked ground. Ryan walked carefully, scanning every direction with his rifle ready. Tar followed behind him, quiet but alert. He tried to step where Ryan stepped, copying his moves. Every sound made him jump a little, but he didn't cry or run anymore. The two walked between the burned buildings, searching for a safe way out. Ryan checked his map tablet. The screen flickered, full of static. Signal's weak, he muttered. But the evac point should be about 10 clicks east. He looked at Tar. If we keep moving, we can make it by sunrise. Tar didn't understand the words, but he saw the direction Ryan pointed and nodded. They kept walking. Sometimes Ryan helped the kid climb over fallen metal beams. Sometimes Tar pointed out safe paths through the rubble. It was strange. The soldier had saved the boy once, but now the boy was helping the soldier find the way. The night grew colder. The wind howled through the empty city like a whispering ghost. Ryan looked at the small alien beside him. The kid's thin arms were shaking from cold. Without a word, Ryan took off part of his jacket and wrapped it around Tar's shoulders. Tar blinked up at him, surprised. Ryan smiled tiredly. Can't have you freezing on me, little guy. He pointed at the jacket and said, Warm. Tar repeated the word softly. Warm, Ryan nodded. Good. They walked for hours, step by step, through the darkness. Then, in the distance, lights. Moving lights. Ryan stopped and raised his hand. Wait! He crouched, pulling Tar down beside him. Through the broken glass of a building, They saw a patrol unit, 3 armored drones scanning the area with red search beams. Ryan whispered, "Scavenger bots. They'll shoot anything that moves." He signaled the boy to stay still. Tar nodded, eyes wide. The drones moved slowly, their sensors sweeping left and right. One beam passed just a few feet away from their hiding spot. Tar held his breath. Ryan placed a steadying hand on the boy's shoulder, calm and strong. After a few long seconds, the drones moved away. Ryan exhaled. "Good job," he whispered. "You're learning fast." Tar didn't understand the words, but he understood the smile. They kept moving after the danger passed. Hours later, they found an old shelter, a half-collapsed bunker built into the ground. Ryan checked the door, then motioned for Tar to follow. Inside it was dark and cold but quiet. Safe enough for now. Ryan set down his pack and checked his supplies, and low ammo, little water. He sighed. "We're not going to make it easy, huh?" He looked at the kid sitting on the floor, holding his toy spaceship. For a moment, Ryan felt something deep, a memory of his own daughter waiting for him back on Earth. He smiled softly. "You remind me of her," he said quietly. Tar looked up, hearing the gentle tone. He smiled back just then in a sudden crash outside. A piece of metal rolled down the hill. Ryan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed his rifle, motioning for Tar to stay behind the wall. Footsteps echoed, heavy and mechanical. Through the doorway, a battle drone appeared, its red eyes glowing bright. Ryan aimed and fired. The first shot hit the drone's chest, but it kept moving. Sparks flew. He shot again. The second hit exploded part of its arm. But then, the drone fired back. The wall beside Ryan exploded into dust. He ducked, pulling Tar down. "Stay down." The drone fired again. One shot grazed Ryan's shoulder. He gritted his teeth and returned fire, hitting the drone square in the head. The metal monster fell with a crash, smoke rising from its broken body. Silence. Ryan breathed hard, holding his bleeding arm. He winced. "Damn." "It's fine," he muttered. Tar crawled closer, worried. He pointed at the wound, speaking softly in his alien tongue. Ryan shook his head. "It's okay. Just a scratch." But it wasn't just a scratch. Blood ran down his sleeve. Ryan tried to wrap it with a cloth, but his hands were shaking. Tar looked around and found a piece of fabric from an old seat. He tore it and handed it to Ryan. Ryan smiled weakly. "Thanks, buddy." Tar frowned, shaking his head. He took Ryan's arm gently and started tying the cloth himself, copying what he had seen soldiers do. Ryan chuckled softly. "Guess you've been paying attention." When the bandage was done, the soldier leaned back against the wall, exhausted. Tar sat beside him, silent and worried. Ryan whispered, "We'll rest here tonight." He looked at the boy. "Tomorrow we keep moving." Tar nodded, though his eyes showed fear. He whispered one word he had learned, "brave." Ryan looked at him, surprised. Then he smiled proudly. "Yeah, brave." The night passed slowly. The soldier slept, weak from the wound. But Tar didn't sleep. He stayed awake, watching the entrance, holding the soldier's rifle tight in his small hands. He remembered Ryan's words. "Stay quiet. Stay brave." He was scared, but he didn't run. Not anymore. For the first time, the alien child stood guard over a human soldier. Outside, the cold wind blew across the battlefield. Inside, 2 survivors, from different worlds, shared the same courage. The soldier had protected the boy once. Now it was the boy's turn. In the ruins of war, courage was no longer human or alien. It was something they both shared. Morning came slowly. A pale light slipped through the cracks of the bunker wall. Dust sparkled in the air. The sound of distant thunder rumbled, not from weather but from machines still fighting far away. Tar opened his eyes. His small body was stiff from sitting all night. He looked beside him. Ryan was still asleep, his face pale, his shoulder wrapped in the makeshift bandage they had made. The human soldier looked weaker than before. His breath was slow, his lips dry. Tar frowned. He reached out and touched Ryan's arm gently. "Ryan," he whispered, trying to say the name clearly. Ryan's eyes opened slowly. He groaned. "Hey, kid." His voice was weak but calm. "You okay?" Tar nodded. He pointed to Ryan's wound. "You..." "Hurt," Ryan smiled a little. "Yeah, I'll be fine." He tried to sit up, but pain made him stop halfway. The boy looked around, then stood. He went to the bunker door and peeked outside. The city was quiet but not peaceful. There was always danger in the silence. He looked at the sky. It was grey, full of smoke. The sun tried to shine through but couldn't. Tar turned back to Ryan and said softly, "Wait." Ryan blinked. "Wait? You learned that word fast." Tar gave a small smile, then disappeared outside before Ryan could stop him. Ryan tried to move, but his body refused. "Kid, don't—" His voice faded into a cough. Outside, Tar walked through the ruins, staying low and quiet like Ryan had taught him. He remembered Ryan's hand signals. Move fast, stay low, watch the corners. He followed them perfectly. He was searching for something. He had seen plants, small blue ones, growing between the cracks of the road earlier. His people used them to clean wounds. He found one near a broken machine, glowing faintly in the morning light. He picked it carefully and sniffed it, sharp, bitter smell. Yes, this was the right one. He filled his small bag with a few leaves and hurried back to the bunker. Inside, Ryan was half asleep, his head leaning against the wall. When Tar entered, he opened his eyes weakly. "You came back?" "Thank God." Tar knelt beside him and showed the leaves. "Medicine," he said proudly. Ryan blinked, confused. "Rosie found that for me?" The boy nodded. He chewed one of the leaves, then gently pressed the juice on Ryan's wound. It stung, but Ryan stayed still. Tar worked carefully, like he'd seen his elders do long ago. His small hands were steady. When he was done, he smiled a little. "Better." Ryan looked at him, amazed. "You're full of surprises, kid." He chuckled softly, then sighed. "Guess I'm the student now." Tar tilted his head, not understanding, but smiled anyway. Hours passed. Ryan rested. And Tar watched over him. Outside, a strange noise echoed again, the whirring sound of engines. Tar peeked through the cracks. His heart skipped. Patrol drones, 2 of them, scanning the area again. He turned to Ryan, who was half asleep. "Ryan," he whispered urgently, pointing to the door. Ryan tried to stand, but pain shot through his arm. "I can't fight right now," he said quietly. "We have to hide." He looked around, but there was nowhere to go. The bunker was too small. The red scanning light flashed through the cracks. Ryan pulled his rifle closer. "If they find us, you run, got it?" Tar shook his head hard. "No run," Ryan frowned. "Tar—" But before he could finish, Tar stood up and ran to the door. Ryan hissed, "Kid! What are you doing?" Tar crouched near the entrance, breathing fast but steady. He picked up a piece of metal and threw it far into the ruins. The sound echoed loudly. The drones turned immediately toward the noise and flew off in that direction, their red lights chasing the sound. Ryan stared, amazed. The kid had distracted them. Tar came back quickly, hiding behind the wall again. His chest was rising fast, eyes wide with adrenaline. Ryan whispered, "You could have been seen." Tar smiled a little, still shaking. "Brave." Ryan froze, then laughed quietly, almost proudly. "Yeah," he said softly. "You really are." Minutes passed. The drones moved away completely. Silence returned. Ryan reached out and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You saved both of us," he said. "Thank you." Tar didn't understand every word, but he understood the feeling in Ryan's eyes, respect. They rested a while longer. Ryan slowly stood up, testing his strength. The pain was still there, but the bleeding had stopped. The alien herbs had worked. He looked at the boy. "We need to move again. Safe zone's still out there." Tar nodded, standing beside him. As they stepped out of the bunker, the wind blew across the ashes once more. They started walking toward the mountains where smoke marked the last human evacuation point. The path ahead was dangerous. Traps, drones, maybe soldiers from either side. But this time Tar wasn't just following. He walked beside Ryan, not behind him. His steps were small but strong. The human looked at him and said softly, "You're not scared anymore, are you?" Tar looked up and smiled. "Brave," Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. "Yeah. Guess you learned that faster than most soldiers I know." As they disappeared into the fog, the camera would pull back, showing the small figures walking across a broken world. 2 survivors united by something far greater than war. Fear had once ruled the alien child's heart. But now, from a human soldier, he had learned something stronger, courage. And soon that courage would be tested one last time. The sky was dark now. Ash and smoke still swirled across the horizon, mixing with the fading light of day. The ruins stretched endlessly, full of shadows and hidden dangers. Ryan leaned against a crumbling wall, breathing heavily. His wound had reopened slightly, and every step hurt. Tar walked beside him, small but steady, his glowing eyes scanning every corner. They could see it ahead him, the evacuation point. A cluster of human ships, lights blinking, engines humming, safety. Almost, but danger moved faster. From the hills came the sound of engines louder than before. Heavy armored vehicles rolled down the broken streets, drones flying overhead. Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Ambush," he whispered. "Get down!" They ducked behind a pile of rubble. Red scanning lights cut across the ground, searching for life. Ryan turned to Tar. "Listen carefully. You follow my lead. Don't move unless I say." Tar shook his head. "No, wait, me help." Ryan frowned. "Kid, this is dangerous!" But Tar only clenched his tiny fists. He remembered everything Ryan had taught him. How to stay calm, how to move silently, how to be brave. Suddenly, a drone hovered too close. Its red eye glowed, ready to fire. Ryan fired at it, but his arm shook from the wound. The bullet hit the wall instead. Tar acted. Slowly, quietly. He grabbed a loose piece of metal and threw it toward a pile of rubble across the street. The drone followed the sound, flying toward the distraction. Ryan's jaw dropped. "Kid," he whispered. Tar didn't answer. He crouched next to Ryan, ready. The remaining drones noticed them now, circling closer. Ryan gritted his teeth. He could barely hold his rifle steady. "Go!" he shouted. "Run!" Tar shook his head. "No run!" Ryan froze, looking at the boy. Tar's face was serious, no fear in his eyes. Only determination. The drones opened fire. Sparks flew from the rubble as bullets hit the ground. Ryan saw his chance. He fired at the nearest drone's sensors, blinding it temporarily. Tar leapt forward, running between the debris, using every trick Ryan had shown him. Together. They moved as one, soldier and alien, student and teacher, protector and brave child. They reached the last stretch before the evacuation ships. A heavy drone hovered right in front of them, its weapons primed. Ryan gritted his teeth. He tried to aim, but pain and fatigue slowed him. Tar stepped forward, small hands on the drone, pushing it slightly, enough to make it unbalanced. Sparks flew. The drone crashed into a broken building. Ryan stared in disbelief. You did it." Tar nodded, exhausted but proud. "Brave." Ryan smiled, almost tearful. "Yeah, very brave." They ran the final few meters, reaching the evacuation ships. Soldiers were already helping others climb aboard. Ryan and Tar were the last ones in line. A final explosion shook the ground behind them. The enemy drones had regrouped. Ryan grabbed Tar's hand. "Hold on!" The ship lifted off. Dust and smoke filled the air. Below, the ruins stretched endlessly. Tar looked down at the world he had just survived. He felt the weight of everything, loss, fear, hope. He looked at Ryan, the human who had taught him courage. Ryan put a hand on his shoulder. "You saved me, kid. You really did." Tar smiled. Simple, quiet. He didn't need more words. As the ship rose above the battlefield, the boy looked back one last time at the destroyed city. Then he looked forward. Ahead, the stars, the future, and the promise of hope. Later, when they landed on the human base, Tar stood before a group of soldiers. His small figure looked brave and strong. He raised his voice, clear and proud. "A human once taught me courage." The soldiers looked at him, amazed. He smiled faintly. "He wasn't my enemy. He was my teacher." Ryan stood behind him, nodding, pride in his eyes. The boy had learned courage. The boy had grown. And in that moment, on a distant world scarred by war, humanity had proven its power, not just in weapons or might, but in mercy, kindness, and courage shared across worlds. The stars above glimmered. 2 worlds, 2 hearts forever changed. In a universe full of war, a human soldier showed mercy, and a small alien child once afraid became brave, because courage knows no species.